Route 616, your home for all things werewolf main continuity. Hello, everybody, this is RJ here, and we're back with episode 25, holy shit, of Route 616. We've been doing this for 25 weeks straight. That's wild. I am here with co-host Bill.
Hi.
And other co-host, the guy whose team shouldn't be the one being sold. It's Dan.
You're so funny. Oh my god, please, my sides.
Be nice. Spider-Man's going to destroy him enough this week.
Oh, no.
Fair enough.
No.
So, as you can tell,
Please.
Dan's already excited to be here, and we have some wonderful comics to cover today. We are going to start off with Strange Tales issue number 118, which has a Human Torch story and then a Doctor Strange story. Then we are going to go right into Amazing Spider-Man number 10 for some quality in this week. Then we go into, I guess, another pretty good quality title in X-Men number 4, the best X-Men issue in my opinion so far, I think. And then Strange Tales 119 is also covered. 2 issues of Strange Tales. How lucky of us. We have a Human Torch story and Doctor Strange story once again. And then to end our lovely recording session off, we are going to end on the highest note possible with Fantastic Four issue number 23.
That's how pathetic this is going to be. Just so you know, people.
By the way, Dan, I heard
Yes,
the
dear.
Glazers were in the market for a new team.
Or you're not even funny. You're not funny.
So, in case anybody is watching this and doesn't know what happens if it has a 423, you are in for a treat near the end of the episode. But anyway,
that's one word for it.
Yeah, it sure is.
The
one
Rebel
word.
Alliance will die. Once they've seen the full power of this battle station,
Dan has joined the
they're
final order.
dead.
So we are going to get into
Eh?
we're going to get into Strange Tales number 118, the A story. By the way, the bonus episode will be coming out near the end of the month now. I'll just throw that out there. It'll be probably the last weekend of the month here of November, where we're going to cover the Alien franchise. So
Yes.
we
Both
will
of them.
yeah we will push
All 2 films.
we will push that more when we get closer to the time. But anyways, let's go in now on Strange Tales. The Man Who Became the Torch is the story title. Done by Stan Lee, and Dick Ives has been left to art by himself these days. We have cover done by Jack Kirby, and Sam Rosen is on letters. This is the December 1963 release, so Merry Christmas. And it's a 13-page story. And off we go to the races. Yes, this is also featuring the return of the Wizard, as we're told on the first page of story.
They seem to feel like people would be excited about that.
Yeah,
It says it right on the bloody cover.
it does say it on the
Yeah,
cover,
but
too.
they make a bigger deal about it on the splash page.
Yeah, it's,
Man,
it's,
and not
It's actually
Kirby's-
written larger than the Human Torch.
Yeah, it's not Kirby's best effort, trust me. Oh, the Wizard.
So, we open up with Torch having a training session. His friends are here. They're like, "Oh, why don't you take a break and come hang with us?" Blah blah blah. We quickly on the next page go over though and see our good old pal, the Wizard, as he is still in jail where he should be. So we learn quickly that he's been planning for months on his escape. And he does just that here, as we see him take out a guard, disguise himself as said guard, and uses his fantastic little jetpack he happened to create while in jail here to escape from said prison. We then see him going on some high. Well, we see him thinking on how he's gonna become a big power in the world and go on heists and stuff, and how his new technology will help him. But if Torch has anything to say with that, I'm sure that'll change. We go back to Torch, and Susan is here and has some fan mail for Johnny.
Oh, Johnny, you're so hot.
But we go through a short time later. The fan mail didn't matter. I just pointed there. The short time later, we see.
Actually, the fan mail does.
Okay.
Yeah, that burning
invite-
sensation may not be
Oh,
good.
it's an invite to a one-man exhibition charity.
Yeah, for charity for
for
children.
charity, which Johnny goes to a short time later. And of course, it's a trap the Wizard has set, and the Wizard feels himself to be the guy that had been filming and dealing with Johnny for the charity event, and Johnny is knocked out by a new gas, I believe. He makes Johnny flame off and then knocks him out with some type of gas, I believe. Oh no, it's from he has this camera that he has invented that has a ray that shoots out of it and then knocks Johnny out. Quite brilliant.
Nice.
So, Wizard has decided he's gonna ruin the reputation of the Human Torch because, there's much of that to salvage. And then, so we see him dress up as Johnny, put his, get a blonde wig on or whatever, and he has added new touches to his old Torch, get up, his Torch imitation, so it is, better and long-lasting now and all this stuff. So he goes on and does... Well, actually, he goes right home before doing anything else, and he thinks how he's gonna trick Sue, and then he's just like, "Oh, the show is great. I better start writing my Emmy acceptance letter." And Sue's like, "Oh, that sounds like how conceited my brother is, so that must be him." So Wizard addresses Johnny, throws a gas down, and it makes Susan fall asleep. So we then see how the Wizard has trapped Sue and Johnny in an ad on top of a high building for some Smith's safety matches. So he's hidden the siblings away, and they will run out of air eventually in this inside this ad because Wizard didn't really plan for them to live for long, just torturous hours. We then go to the Wizard flying into the Baxter building as Torch, and he talks to Ben and Reed, and he storms in as Johnny. He's like, "Sue and I want a vacation. We're taking a break from the team. Blah blah blah." Reed and Ben find it weird, but they're like, "Oh," Reed's like, "Oh, like they deserve a break. They've worked hard." Blah blah. Finn's like, "Why don't we get a break?" We see Wizard then go on to plan out his massive crimes he's going to commit using his anti-gravity device type thing he's created that he got out of prison with. It kind of looks like a jetpack, but it's not. It can lift items up no matter the mass, and he's working on improving it so it can do stuff so massive as in it can lift a boat out of the ocean. We then see Johnny and Sue wake up in the advertisement, and Johnny is like, "Oh, let's try to burn our way out of here with a fireball," but guess what? The walls are lined with asbestos. I can't believe it.
It's just asbestos stuff. Oh, come on, you knew I was going to use that one.
At some point, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So they're trapped in this advertisement, but Johnny finds the tiniest little crack in the advertisement so he can shoot out a flame 4 into the sky and get the rest of the Fantastic Four's attention, which is now the Fantastic 2. But if we have Reed and Ben see the 4 and they make it over to the match's advertisement, and Finn busts it open and Johnny and Sue are saved. So this is where they all are. Everybody is now in the loop that the Human Torch going around is the Wizard. So Johnny goes back to his and Sue's home, and the Wizard is waiting for him. The Wizard is caught off guard a little bit, but he has a weapon in his hand. He has a gun-looking weapon. But Johnny quickly surrounds the Wizard in fire. But the Wizard has a plan to get out of this as he grabs this tiny little device that is a smaller version of the device he used to get out of prison that he's going to commit all the crimes with. And he starts floating into the air. But this backfires because the Wizard's invention runs out of power. Well, he's still floating and he can't stop it. So this issue ends with the Wizard just continuing to float in space, and Human Torch can't save him, and the Wizard dies at the end. No, I don't. He's left floating in the air.
Dan actually asks the fans to write in letters if they want the Wizard to get out of it.
Yeah.
I'm very disappointed he didn't get Robined.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck the fans contributed here, but
I don't think they read the letters. I think they just
probably
were
not.
like, we're bringing back the wizard now.
So
God,
yeah,
when I was young, I rarely ever read editor's notes and stuff like that. You know,
he just floats
were
into
boring.
the sky. I have always read editor's notes because I'm a nerd, but anyway. Yeah, that's the
well,
first...
I didn't want to be the first to say.
Excuse me for 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to go for a second.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So that was
Cool.
that was the first Human Torch story of the day. We'll just kind
Exciting
of...
stuff.
I know. We will, well, I guess I don't know how long Bill's going to take, so we'll save the ratings until Bill comes back, but we'll just move on to the B story, so we'll get you going on the B story. Then we'll just do the ratings for both stories afterwards. We'll do
Sure.
it that way right now.
Okay.
Bill might be back already. We might be able to do it now. Okay.
Yep.
Sorry
There
about
we
that.
go.
I could hear the dog getting into trouble.
Oh,
Okay,
that's all right.
it's okay. I was about to move on to the B story and do our ratings after, but now that you're back, we'll just stick to the normal layout. So, what was your rating for this one?
2 stars. This was pretty bad.
Okay, this is the one you didn't like. I gave this one 3 stars. I got enough enjoyment out of this.
I think it deserves at least a 4.
I hate this guy.
No, it's crap. Yeah, 2 stars is fair because it's. Again, I keep saying this every week. It's pretty pedantic stuff. You know, there's just nothing to hold you to the story other than caring about the characters themselves. You're sort
And
of
even at
reading
this
it because you
point,
have no
they're
choice.
not that good at making you care.
I think that's why this one got a little boost for me, just because I think the characters were done pretty well. It was probably the best wizard appearance, which really isn't saying much because wizards suck so far.
No.
So that
Well,
kind
the
of gave it a
wizard
little
doesn't really
boost.
do anything particularly wizardy.
No, he's
You
not.
know,
He's
it's
more of a
kind-
wizard
it's
of the
kinda
mind, is
two-dimensional.
what the gimmick is. He's a wizard
Yeah,
because
he's one of the many super genius villains that they have at this point.
that's
Yeah.
that's his
Well,
gimmick. He's a super genius.
There are a lot of bad guys that have PhDs, right? I mean, we have to acknowledge that, right? So, right, you know, like Doctor Doom, Doctor this, Doctor that. It's just like, okay, guys, you know, just
Speaking
Okay,
of people with
wow.
PhDs, we're moving on to one.
Yeah.
oh, okay, yeah,
As our B story moves on to a Doctor Strange story.
pretty hot doctor. Yeah, okay, let's go to the pretty hot doctor.
That's fair enough. That's a fair assessment. This one is called The Possessed. It's a D-page story. This one's also loaded by Sam Rosen. For some reason, Chick Stone gets a cover card here that he didn't get on the last way, so I don't know what's going on there. Steve Ditko, of course, does the art on this one. And this one is for Dan to cover.
Yay! Okay, and just the usual disclaimer: I'm taking this straight off the Marvel database site, so the summary they have is what you're about to get. And the story begins when Doctor Strange spots supernatural forces at work in the Bavarian Alps. Has their beer gone flat? Are the Frauleins all slipping out of their outfits? God only knows.
I apologize.
Maybe
everybody.
there's a knot in their lederhosen. We don't know. Hang on, we'll find out. He travels to a valley there, where he discovers that many villagers have become possessed, walking around in a trance, like zombies. He attempts to probe the mind of one of the possessed, but the possessing spirit flees before Strange can find him. That's odd. So he could solve all this by just attempting to, probe the minds of everybody that's possessed, and they would flee and the story's over. Does that happen? Hold on, folks, let's find out. Nope, he doesn't do anything so simple. Passing through a magical entrance, which he pulled out of his ass, apparently, the fleeing spirit tells his master of the
You almost say
newcomer.
it's magic.
Yeah. It's kind of, never mind. The leader orders the spirit to take possession of Doctor Strange. Strange, however, foils the possession attempt, and by probing the spirit, kinky. Okay,
I was waiting for something. I was waiting for
Waka chicka, waka chicka, waka chicka. He discovers they are beings from another dimension attempting to take control of Earth. Man, it must suck to live in these other dimensions if this is your ideal, take over the Earth. Right. The possessed mayor arouses the villagers against Dr. Strange, but the rabble is easily thrown back by Strange's magical might. Nice alliteration. Dr. Strange finds a hiding place of the invaders, defeats their leader in a battle of wills, and forces the possessors to leave and never come back. For something with extra dimensions, it's a pretty two-dimensional story. Just got to throw that out there.
Yeah,
that was...
when you put it like that, my rating of this one's also a little inflated, but,
But you
I
gave
also
it a 1?
gave this one 3. It's probably more of a 2. In fact, the site average is a 2.64. But we can't do halves, or else I would have given it a 2.5. But I was closer to the 3 than the 2, so I gave it the 3.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat. It's a 2.5 story that you can't do halves on, so I went 3 as well.
I tend to round down, so we're going with 2, because it's just not original or unique or interesting at all.
That's fair enough in this case, so I won't judge you for that one.
The only real thing it had going for it was it wasn't set in New York City.
Okay, that's entirely fair. That is fair.
At this point, just going to the Bavarian Alps and it being a real place instead of some country they made up to not offend anyone gets it a little bit of a boost.
That's not
Can't
that's
wait
not
for us
unfair.
to... we're getting close to the point where we get to watch Hank overthrow a democratic system.
Oh, boy. Well, maybe someday we'll get to see that in real life.
I mean, he is hired by the CIA and he's sent to Central America, so it's been done.
Oh, man.
Not repeating stories, no.
Let's just keep the pigs at bay.
That is your best pun ever.
Well, thank you.
Dan's putting his work in today.
Yeah, it is. Well, for those of us old enough to know what I was referring to, Ryan doesn't get it, does he? Ryan, do you get it?
I'll pretend like I do.
We're talking about the Americans' attempt to overthrow Castro. They took a bunch of Cuban exiles, turned them into an ad hoc army, and threw them ashore at the Bay of Pigs in Cuba, where they were basically slaughtered. So
yeah, it did not go well.
No. And Jeff Kay was to blame for the whole thing. The guy they named they named him after an airport, didn't they? Jeff Kay? I think, or something like that.
Ryan's also not following the Red Dwarf.
I got that
he's not
one.
catching.
I
You
got
got that Red
one.
Dwarf reference?
Oh, it's
Yeah.
well,
would
I
you
mean,
name
I
him after an
got
airport?
the
Jeff Kay.
Yes.
Yeah. But anyways, with that digression, I think we've proven that we're all just... There's a reason why we're doing this on a Friday night, alone, at home.
Yeah, it's
Right,
only
just in case you were
evening.
wondering. It's what gives pasty bald white guys something to do
For-
on a Friday night. This is our social life. What the hell are you guys
For
doing
all
sitting
they
there
know, we
watching
should go
this?
party after this.
Or read another
Yeah.
terrible Son of Satan comic.
You read another terrible Son of Satan comic. Come on, Bill.
I might read the second issue of Daredevil. Who knows what crazy stuff could happen.
You wild man.
Anyway,
gosh.
let's move.
Let's move on to Bill.
Amazing
Big Bad
Spider-Man. Amazing Spider-Man issue number 10. Dan's favorite comic. As this one is titled The Enforcers.
It's crap.
Well, this is one of the issues where Dan might have some substance to his
Really?
feelings.
As
But
opposed to all the other times where I was completely unjustified in my criticism.
mostly. Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, of course, mainly do this, but the cover is supposedly Jack Kirby as a credit on here, along with Steve Ditko, so that's interesting.
It doesn't look like a Kirby cover. Well, I guess
Spider-Man is a little chunky,
bit.
but his logo is there. But I guess if Steve Ditko is backing him up, I don't know.
Yeah, it does look like Jack penciled.
Yeah,
it a
those are
bit.
Kirby faces.
And curvy
Yeah.
arms, like the way the arms are going on the bad guy. I'm assuming it's a bad guy because he's wearing green.
All the other
Spoiler,
people
they're
that
all
are,
the bad guys.
Yes, those
Oh,
are you
but
see
they're
those
not
are the
wearing
people that are
green.
called the enforcers.
And the big man. Who's not
So-
the big man, by the way.
Hey, it's beyond the purple greenish veil.
So, this is a December 1963 release as well. So, Merry Christmas again. 22-page story, and this one is for.
Point of order, Your Honor. According to this Marvel database, the release date was January 10th, 1964, and the cover date was April 64.
One of those is wrong because we have March and December.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry, my bad. I'm looking at a different cover.
Okay.
Okay, I think we
I
found out
just
which ones
clued
are.
in what was going on here. Wait a minute. No, this is the wrong
No, this
cover.
is the really, really bad cover.
Oh, okay.
Because this is one of the
Anyway.
worst covers on a comic I've ever seen.
This is
Nothing
a.
about this makes you want to buy the comic.
This is a classically divisive comic too, because the Enforcers have been a joke for a decade among Spider-Man fans. So this is the start of their status of being a joke for a lot of fans.
Really? As opposed to...
Most
Before.
of Spider-Man's films so far have been good. This is their weakest. No, it's not their weakest. It's their second weakest so far, because the weakest was Living Brain. So
Yeah.
actually, no, that's even more
There's a
wrong.
dec-
It's their third weakest because they had the Alien and Tinkerer in issue number 2.
Yeah,
So-
there's a decent villain in this comic. It's not the Enforcers.
But anyway, let's let Bill get into it so I don't hear all that.
Yes. Anyway, this question, our comic opens with the pressing question, who is the big man? So keep your eyes out for characters that turn up for the first time in this comic.
Okay.
And it opens with a man in a very strange-looking mask who's identified as the big man, a new figure in New York organized crime. And he's committing some crimes and making Spider-Man look like a fool in the process. And he gathers the other heads of New York's organized crime to brag to them about how he's made Spider-Man look like a fool, and so he should be the head of the crime syndicate in New York from now on. And if they don't like it, they can take it up with his enforcers. And then we get introduced to his enforcers. There's a tiny guy named Fancy Dan. I'm not making that name up.
Hi. I'm eating
Who
chocolate.
is a judo black belt and just kicks the shit out of a whole bunch of them. And then there's a great big guy named Ox who pummels a bunch of them while not even stopping eating an apple.
Who is probably the most important of the bunch introduced in this issue.
Yeah, ironically, Ox has the biggest future. It's not good, but there's more of it. And finally, we have Montana, who wears a cowboy hat and performs lariat tricks. And he traps a bunch of people in his rope and knocks them down. And so after they've all been pummeled sufficiently, they allegedly, I guess, let the big man be in charge. It's never really shown. He's just in charge when he's next on panel. And we cut back to the hospital where Aunt May is still in bed from her operation. And she's doing as well as can be expected, but she needs a blood transfusion. And Peter's the only one who can give the blood transfusion, but he's worried about the radiation in his blood.
I would be too.
They convince him to do it mostly because Flash and Liz are there, and Liz and Flash start giving him shit for being too much of a coward to give his aunt a life-saving transfusion.
Mm-hmm.
So he gives the blood, and she recovers shockingly quickly.
And so begins
And
the radioactive Spider-Gwen.
Becomes she, her, Spider-Gwen.
And immediately goes on vacation to Florida. America's penis.
Mm-hmm. As flaccid as the leader.
And, while she goes on vacation, the big man goes on a massive crime spree.
Hi, I'm Ron DeSantis.
He's the second most corrupt person mentioned in this issue. And, Spider-Man catches a bunch of the big man's associates, but they immediately get bailed out by him. And we're now going to focus on the other person searching for the big man, J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah, let's get to the hero of the story. Come on.
And Jonah is trying to find proof that Spider-Man, because he doesn't know they're the same person,
Of course.
is actually the big man, and the whole thing's just a fraud.
Tell me, that sounds familiar.
His crack reporter, a tiny guy named Frederick Foswell, on the case. And he wants him to just write a report, or an article, saying that they have proof that Spider-Man is the big man. And Foswell points out that last month he claimed Electro was Spider-Man, and that didn't work out so well, and he looked like an idiot, so he might not want to do it again. But Jonah's got his back up, and he's just like, well, I own the paper, so if you want to get paid, you'll write the article. And so Foswell caves and goes to write the article. And we cut to Betty leaving the office and immediately getting accosted by the enforcers, who want her to pay the interest on the loan she's paid off the loan sharks. And she's like, but I've already paid off the whole thing. And Fancy Dan tells her that the big man doubled the interest since yesterday, and since he runs every crime racket in town, including the loan shark, there's not much she can do about it.
That's right, woman. Pay attention. I have spoken.
And just then, Peter arrives and goes to stand up for her, but immediately gets grabbed by the ox, so she caves and agrees to pay so Peter doesn't get hurt.
Wow.
And
nice to know there's at least one hero in this story.
Yes. And Peter asks her how she got involved, but she doesn't want to tell him anything because he'll try to help and get involved too, so she just runs away crying. For once, it's not Peter. I'm taking that before Dan can say it.
Thank you. My mouth was full, so.
Well, if I had known you were eating, I would have just let that one pass.
I had a chocolate.
Consummate professionals here on the podcast.
We are.
Anyway, for those of us not distracted by putting chocolate in our mouths, Peter turns back into Spider-Man and catches a random hood who he wants to threaten into telling him where the big man is. But this guy obviously is more scared of the big man than he is of Spider-Man, so he refuses to tell.
Ernie does it best.
Yes, so Spider-Man webs up his eyes and takes him somewhere, and when his eyes clear, he's in a giant spider web with Spider-Man hanging there, and in the background, in the shadows, a giant fucking Shelob-sized spider.
Ooh, okay, now we're talking. This is getting better.
And
it's getting better.
The guy's terrified he's going to be fed to this spider, so he tells him where he can find the big man, the enforcers, and in the second panel we see the opposite angle where it's revealed that the spider is just a bunch of wood with webbing making a spider on it.
Okay, now I'm disappointed. Can we go on to the next title?
No.
These guys are no fun to play with, trust me.
And so Spider-Man goes swinging over to the hideout that's been identified, where he gets roped by Montana, but immediately gets free. And he gets into a fight with the Ox, but knocks him down. And they go on and have a great big fight, and basically every time the enforcers try something, Spider-Man outmaneuvers them, but then he starts feeling weak because he just donated blood, and he's not in the best condition to be fighting for a long time. So he eventually just knocks the lights out and escapes, realizing that he probably should have planned better. And so he hides in an alley to get his breath back before heading home, and sees Jonah go storming by, and comes to the conclusion that Jonah must be the big man.
Yeah.
But he needs some evidence, and so he goes home and tries to call Betty to ask her about what she knows, since she's Jonah's secretary. And she doesn't want to answer the phone, but finally she realizes that if she doesn't, Peter will probably come over because he'll think something happened to her. So she answers and tells him she'll talk to him tomorrow, and then immediately leaves town.
Bye.
And so Peter goes into the office the next day, no Betty. Jonah is stuck filing his own papers and is cranky about it, and sends Peter to go get him some pictures so that he'll have something to put on Foswell's article about Spider-Man. And so Peter goes to talk to Foswell and asks him if he really believes that Spider-Man's the big man. Foswell says he doesn't, but he just writes what Jonah tells him to.
Good integrity.
Yes. Well, I mean, he's got integrity out the wazoo, as we'll see as the story progresses.
Must work for Fox News.
He may actually be less credible than them.
And MSNBC.
Yes.
Okay.
And, anyway, Peter goes home.
I think we broke Ryan.
Probably. Peter goes home, ponders how he's going to get the big man, and comes up with a plan. So the next day he goes to school and starts bragging to everyone that he's figured out who the big man is, and he's going to go to the police about it. And Flash pulls him aside and tells him that might not be a good idea. But Peter
He's a dick.
Says he's going to go ahead with it. And, of course, his bragging is overheard by a random criminal that's just hanging out around the school. Not that kind of criminal.
Oh, so he's just kind of sitting there in a white van?
No. Not that kind of criminal. That's the kind of criminal I was referring to.
Okay.
And so this guy goes and reports to the big man, who's very surprised that Peter Parker found out who he is. And clearly knows who Peter is.
Which is why he had somebody watching this random school.
Probably. Anyway,
yeah.
The police get a call from Spider-Man telling them that he's going to signal them tonight after he goes after the enforcers.
Da-da-da-da.
And then Peter starts walking through spooky abandoned parts of the city and immediately gets kidnapped by the enforcers, who take him to the big man and big man's hideout and lock him in a cell where he puts on his Spider-Man costume and breaks out.
Transforms.
And
you were going to say transforms, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
Wow.
And I realized that was a bad choice of words, so I changed it.
Spidey in disguise.
And we'll leave the story there. These people aren't good enough to hear the end of the Spider-Man story.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's an insult.
I know, right?
As if Phil's going to leave it, we got to torture Dan.
Yeah, no. No, you really don't, just so you know. I'll stop eating
Anyway,
chocolate,
Spider-Man breaks out and discovers a massive group of gangsters that are all getting orders from the big man. And he starts fighting with the gangsters. He fights with the enforcers. He beats them all up. It's actually a pretty good fight that goes on for a fair number of pages. And eventually, the big man realizes that his guys are getting beat, so he tries to escape, and Spider-Man starts chasing him just as the police arrive and round everyone else up, because during the fight, Spider-Man threw his Spidey signal outside of the building.
Okay.
And so Spider-Man loses the big man, but he has a pretty good idea who he is. So he swings his way over
there.
Yeah, he swings his way over to Jonah's office and he sees Jonah all worked up, pacing in his office. Except what Jonah is actually worked up about is his inability to prove that Spider-Man is the big man. And with the crime ring being broken up, now he won't be able to get the evidence. And Foswell comes into the office with his column about the big man being Spider-Man, and Jonah tells him to tear it up because he has suddenly found his integrity and actually wants to write a story that he can prove.
Unlike Stan and Jack.
Just then the police arrive, and
what a coincidence.
They tell him they've already found who the big man is, and Spider-Man's like, holy shit, it actually is Jonah. And the police tell them that they've already got the building surrounded, so there's no point in trying to sneak out. Might as well just come along peacefully, Foswell. And
there's
they
no
reveal
pause for alarm.
Oh, fuck off.
It'll
And they
all end
reveal
well.
that they've already found Foswell's car with the padded suit and the lifted shoes that made him look way bigger than he actually was. And he's like, well, shit, I guess you caught me. And I would have gotten away for it, too, if it wasn't for those meddling kids in their spider costume.
Nice Scooby ref.
That's what happens.
Thank you.
Kudos.
Yeah. And so Spider-Man's like, well, I would have never thought it was Foswell. And Jonah is desperately trying to get Foswell to admit that he was in league with Spider-Man before he goes to jail. But he won't do
Lucifer. Yeah.
And so Jonah's all annoyed, and then he just starts ranting to him. Spider-Man leaves, and Jonah just starts ranting in his office about how come he hates Spider-Man, because all his life he's only thought about one thing, making money. And Spider-Man risked his life day after day with no thought of a reward. And so if he is like a hero, then what's Jonah? And Jonah has to admit that he's nothing like Spider-Man. Spider-Man's brave, powerful, and unselfish, whereas Jonah is not. And so he keeps trying to tear him down because he's jealous of him. And for the record, Dan, I'm not adding any of those words to try to rile you.
This is nauseating.
And
Shouldn't have eaten all that chocolate.
Yeah, that wasn't a good idea, was it?
God.
And Spider-Man goes home, finds a card from Aunt May saying that she's having a great time in Florida. And then he wonders what happened to Betty. We cut over to a small town in Pennsylvania where Betty's sitting in a hotel room weeping because she feels bad that she couldn't tell her secret to Peter. And we're left wondering what this secret is. The end.
She has chlamydia? I don't
mean,
know.
Yes, but
It could happen. She's really his father? I don't know. Who cares?
Spider-Man readers.
No, they don't. This is like reading those old love story comics. I have a secret. I love Ben, but I'm going out with Biff. Whatever shall I do? I'm so sad. How will it ever work out?
By the way, the Jonah stuff, we were on the cover. We were promised to find the secret of why Jonah truly hates Spider-Man, and that was the that was the revelation
Tag.
from that.
Yeah. No, no. This was not good.
Dan is disgusted.
This makes Doctor Strange look good. Christ, this makes the Hulk look good.
So,
do you want to know something? I'm going to share this with you.
Dan's about to shoot.
It's kind of a before you guys' time, but the two biggest heroes back in the 60s when I was growing up were Spider-Man and Batman. Right? They were the bigger superheroes. Even Superman wasn't as big as Batman back then. It was all Spider-Man, Batman. And a lot of kids liked Spider-Man because his superpower was climbing. And they, of course, could climb trees and pretend they're Spider-Man. Right? It had nothing to do with the fact that he was a loser who didn't know how to talk to women or anything. None of that stuff. It was just because it was cool to be able to climb and pretend you were a superhero. Right? That's all it was. Right? It was something you could do. You could emulate this superhero by just climbing a friggin' tree. So, yeah, just so you know.
I gave this one 3 stars, but barely. This is actually
You
one of my
would,
least favorite.
wouldn't you?
This
You
is one
would.
of my. This actually, believe it or not, Dan, this is one of my least favorite issues so far of this Amazing Spider-Man run. But
That's so telling.
it barely got 3 stars, but yeah, still got
You're
3
the
stars
guy
because it has
who-
a fun one.
You're the guy who recommended Rob Zombie's Halloween. You have no credibility ever.
Movies and comics are different mediums.
But your credibility is
I have
still on
more
the table,
credibility.
buddy.
I have more credibility in comics.
No, not recently. No, you really don't.
Well, I also gave this 3 stars.
Yeah, well, we expect that from you. You cheer on Man United.
Someone's
This
awful
did-
cranky. It's almost like their team's being
Shut up.
sold.
This,
Next topic. Oh, don't we?
this
we
did
need to
have
go
an
on to the
average of
next story.
3.31 stars, so we're right on average essentially.
Yes, I actually enjoyed this one more the second time through.
I'm going to start eating more chocolate.
I guess
Nom, 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 nom.
I guess we can go ahead and end Dan's misery and move on to X-Men issue number
Thank you.
4. Don't worry, Dan. We have a 2-parter coming up of Spider-Man here real
Oh,
soon.
just fucking shoot me.
So, X-Men issue number 4, titled The Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Yes, we finally got there. This is the debut of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. And this is a Stan Lee and Jack Kirby title. Paul Ryman inks this one. And then we have Artie Simek on letters. January 1964 release, Happy New Year. And it's a 23-page story, an extra page for us on this one. Just what X-Men of all titles needed. So, with that in mind,
Please go quick.
I will try.
Okay.
A lot kind of happens here, but I'm going to have to do some hardcore skimming. With that in mind,
I mean, it should be fairly easy. Nothing of any import happens in the first 3.5 pages.
Yeah.
that's relatively fair. Okay.
See, he didn't even call it up before he started.
No, I forgot to.
How
I
unprofessional.
I had the X-Men. I had the Spider-Man story open. I forgot.
It does
to
give
switch it.
Bill and I time to criticize your taste in film, though.
Yeah,
in
just
case
what
we're
you
wondering.
needed. More time to do that.
Yeah, there's a little plug for our movie cast, just in case anybody out there, is curious. We did a list of what we thought were really, really good Halloween films, and then Ryan added his list to what we had.
One of these
you
things
guys.
was not like the others.
That's right.
It was a fun
Right.
2-hour episode. Go watch it if you haven't checked it
It was
out.
basically,
I get bullied for a good 80% of it. So
it was basically where
Maybe if you
the-
didn't bring the equivalent of the Impossible Man to your movie list.
you
It
just
was-
figured out why I liked it. I think.
ladies and gentlemen, basically what you had was Oscar the Grouch, right, and the Swedish Chef joining together to do a movie cast, and Fozzie Bear decided to join in. Okay. Just saying.
That was a good.
Well, now
That was a
Dan's
good
just
one.
being a Judas.
Well,
We have X-Men available now, so we're gonna move on.
And
Okay.
Ryan was distracted getting the comic up and completely missed the wordplay I threw back.
Oh, I heard
Yeah,
Judas. Whew. Okay, so we open up on the X-Men training, and literally nothing important happens, like Bill said at first. They're all just practicing their powers, but it is whose birthday is it here?
The X-Men as a team.
Oh, it's the X-Men's anniversary. Happy 1 year. So yeah, they have a cake and they have the cake and eat it too. But we go over to a collection of people who will be known as the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants here. We are introduced to they're all eating themselves, but not quite as delicious looking of a sitting here. We have the Toad, Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch, and Mastermind? Yeah, Mastermind. Totally the most important guy here.
Absolutely. Face Pop Pete must have been busy.
We quickly see this team doesn't fully enjoy each other's company as Mastermind uses powers to make the illusion of Toad being turned into a pig. So Mastermind's abilities it's all illusions. He makes people see stuff that isn't like it truly is. Blah blah blah. It comes into play a lot. They actually try pushing Mastermind quite a bit in these first appearances. So. But we see Scarlet Witch stand up, who is actually the most important character here, along with Quicksilver, of course, after that. And she's like, enough of your illusions. There is a repulsive at Toad's tableside manner, blah, blah, blah. They start all just fighting. Scarlet Witch uses her powers here, I believe, to pour stuff on Mastermind. Then we see Quicksilver in action as he uses his fucking speed abilities to go over and knock out, well, not knock out, but punch out Mastermind. We then see that their leader, they tease who their leader is, and we quickly learn their leader is none other than Magneto, who was introduced in issue number 1 of this title. Back for a second appearance here.
He's a polarizing personality.
You should have quit while you were ahead with the Bay of Pigs pun.
Okay, fine.
We see Magneto hard at work being a menace, to which which Angel flies overhead on one of his evil missions, but doesn't spot Magneto. Angel makes it back to the X-Mention. Professor Xavier is testing their blood pressure. That's lovely. Let's move on. The Brotherhood of Evil Mutants are gathered together. Magneto tries to get them to stop their bickering. He also points out how important the Scarlet Witch is. She says she cannot leave because she talks about leaving because of all the bickering and everything. We then see how Magneto promises they will rule over Homer Superior. Don't worry, Dan. We're 9 pages in, and we're not doing too bad. So then we see Charles Xavier reading a newspaper that points out the tiny Republic of San Marco shelled by mysterious naval craft. So he calls the X-Men through a red alert, and they all gathered together to go see what's going on in San Marco. We go and see that. Fuck.
Hello?
That the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants have taken over. Magneto is ruling this nation, and Toad says he was born to rule. But the X-Men have arrived, and there has been the order to not let any. They have put up a front and are letting the American residents in and trying to put up a show to make it seem like everything is normal here in San Marco, when it truly is not, of course. So we have the X-Men quickly break out. They had fake IDs and stuff so they wouldn't be figured out by Magneto. Or fake looks, whatever. And the X-Men quickly get back in the costume and start attacking the troops of Magneto. They climb up this castle. Toad is here, starts throwing rocks around. Nobody can shoot the Angel into the sky. There's just a lot of fighting here that's pretty unimportant. We see Quicksilver show up and he starts battling with Angel, but Angel is able to knock him out. But then Scarlet Witch is standing there and starts using her powers on Angel and knocks Angel out by having a ton of metal and wood
Bricks.
fall onto him. Magneto is skulking about, and then we see Cyclops' eye beam shoot out towards him. So it seems like everybody is here now, pretty much. So we have X-Men versus Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. They continue the fight for a little bit here. They're interrupted by this by Cyclops using his eye beams and knocking a big machine out of the tower. Probably something Magneto was using for evil that I didn't mention before. We have Iceman, who stops the machine the contraption from falling because it's about to squish him, so he uses his abilities there. Then he uses them to climb up the castle because he's the last one to the party here, essentially. So nothing really happens there. The X-Men are finally all together now in this castle and ready to fight.
All together.
But they have been trapped inside castle and can't find a way out. But Professor X shockingly appears out of thin air, but he's essentially and says, "Don't fear, there's a way out of here." And he has them follow him here. We see the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants together, ready to use their. They're wiring 2 bombs here to go off. And destroy the X-Men in this castle, so everything's going down. But we see the X-Men. The X-Men are approaching where they are wiring these bombs, and Professor Xavier jumps out from his wheelchair and takes the brunt of an explosion that plays out here, and he is knocked. He's conscious but barely. And his eyes are glazed back, so he's in rough shape. The bomb goes off, but they're not like in the vicinity of it. But Charles Xavier stops them from entering a door that they would have gotten them in the vicinity of it. But Charles takes the brunt of it. We see the Brotherhood running away, but they come across the X-Men again, so there's some more fighting. But then the X-Men have stopped following the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants because they're like, "Oh shit, Professor X." So they go back to Professor X, who is completely just laying there on the floor and pretty fucked up. So they wonder how he is, and they figure out he's alive, but something terrible's happened. His brain seems to be affected, and they point out how that's his greatest weapon is his brain. Professor X is like, "Leave me, I'm no good to anybody." The explosion deadened my mutant mental power. So supposedly his mental powers are no more because of the explosion. We see the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants have escaped this day, but the X-Men promise that they will go after them, and we are left with the idea of, will Charles Xavier regain his abilities, and will the X-Men promise to make sure they're worthy of all the training that they've been given. And that's the end of that issue. I think that was pretty fast for 24 pages.
Okay, to be fair, yeah, it was faster than I was
23
expecting it to be.
That was a lot better when you were reading it.
I hope so, because your summary was boring.
It was a lot better that you sit down and read it and go all in detail. Just running through it like that sounds kind of average. I actually did. This was if you take issue 2 of it, this title has gotten better each time. Essentially, I ended up giving this one 4 stars. So.
Yeah, this was a 4-star story, although I think most of that was just because of the historical significance of it.
The historical value of this issue did help a lot because there is important characters plus Mastermind introduced here, so...
Yeah, it certainly gets kudos for bringing in some of these characters.
Their team dynamic is fun, too, if you actually sit down and read it. It's kind of fun to see them bicker a bit.
Yeah, I'm not going to even attempt to rate it because this is one of those stories I would really have to read before I could give you a...
Yeah.
Right, Just
Toad being a brown-nosing little bitch is particularly entertaining in it.
It is.
Okay.
It's a reminder of how early Toad's actually kind of fun, and then Toad just becomes a nothing character after a while. But yeah.
Oh, early Toad is great.
Yeah, early Toad is probably the character's best.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. There it is. It exists. It's a thing.
It's a big issue. The Brotherhood of Evil Mutants have been introduced. They will continue the menace and be the villain of this comic way too much, probably. But we will. Right now, they are nice to see. Join the reading order.
Yeah, I think it's a nice example of how, and as with DC, Marvel's bad guys are sometimes far better than the good guys as far as characters go. Right? They're a lot more fun. They have a lot more depth to them. There's better ideas. While Quicksilver is meh, Scarlet Witch and Magneto are both fantastic characters, with great powers, and there's so much to them, and you got to like that.
There isn't as much Scarlet Witch right now, but she's still got such a striking look, and still has impressive enough abilities that she's still definitely important, and she quickly gets pushed up the important ranks. But her powers are definitely expanded on, and as time goes along by a lot.
Yeah, at this point, she's basically evil Jean Grey.
Yeah, exactly. That's essentially what's going on here at this point. But I mean, this is a good comic to cover, and it's nice to see us get an important issue in this batch, as we actually have a relatively mediocre batch this week when you look at it, but here we got the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. I'm sure we will maybe turn on them as time goes along, as I know Bill does. So. But anyway, let's move on.
And actually, before we move on, I want to mention the fact that very little happened for us to talk about in this comic actually is one of the things that makes it better, because they didn't over-clutter it with a ton of stuff happening. They let stuff actually have room to breathe.
Yeah, and it was a more fun read than X-Men has been at points, too. And, I mean, the Brotherhood's interactions were more fun than the X-Men, just to play off of what Dan was saying of the villains being better characters to read and everything, so, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, let's move on to Strange Tales 119, as we are going with the A story, The Torch Goes Wild.
In honor of our next movie cast. Okay, I just sent them a picture. Okay.
It's an alien meme. So
it's a good one.
The Torch Goes Wild. This is Stan Lee story with Dick Ayers on art again, of course. And we have Jack Kirby doing the cover again, and Sam Rosen is on letters. This is a January 1964 release. I wish this title got canceled for the new year sometimes. And this is a 13-page story.
All right, Bill.
No, this is me.
Oh, it's you.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up while I'm talking. Marvel Unlimited's very slow sometimes, but I already got it. There we go. Okay. Just gotta swipe my finger back a few times here, and we'll be at the start of the story. So, on the cover, we are showing the Rabble Rouser, who is going to be our villain of the piece. And if you feel like you've kind of seen this gimmick before, well, you may have accidentally been reading some Tales to Astonish. But anyways,
or some Fantastic Four, which they make direct allusions to.
Fair enough. First page opens up with a decent picture of Human Torch flying through the sky. As it says that this issue features the Rabble Rouser, a really different supervillain.
Okay.
He's only the third of the archetype we've had this month, guys.
Yeah.
So...
Boy, good thing they're not struggling for ideas.
No, very original stuff every month from Marvel HQ, from the bullpen, you could say. So the torch is flying through the sky, and all these people are just shitting on the torch. It's actually
not really. If
makes
he's above
sense.
them, they're kind of,
But they're just
you
yelling
don't know,
out to him.
eaten Chipotle named.
Yeah, that's true.
They're just shouting out Finn's to him and saying he shouldn't be behaving this way. He's acting like a wild man and all this stuff. And anywhere he's going now, Torch is getting verbally berated, and he wonders what's going on. And he's getting really hot and bothered. not. I realized what I was saying as it was going to come out, so I was like, yeah, well, I'm just going to continue with it.
Yeah.
But we see why people were riled up as we meet a guy called, well, he's the Rabble Rouser. I thought he might actually have a real name here, but I don't see it.
No, they don't. They don't bother. They just call him the Rabble Rouser.
Wow, they just keep giving up with this. So he is the one that's riling up the people of the village, and he has gone so far as to he goes so far.
Frankenstein?
He goes so far as to get Torch's ability to get there's a law made to prohibit Torch from flaming on, unless he has permission from government officials to do so. For the city. And Spider-Man even comes around to help Torch with his reputation issues, but Torch is so mad about their interaction with the Sandman in the annual that he is not dealing with Spidey. We see the Rabble Rouser has a device which is a wand, like he calls it a mesmerizing wand, so that he uses on his voice to make it persuade people. So yes, it's another person that can convince people whatever by his voice. We've seen this. We've seen this before. I don't know his plan here. It turns out this guy this guy's a Red, and he's here to get government secrets or whatever here. So he uses this. It's like an underground submarine type device.
It's the same thing the Hate Monger had. They even say it's the same thing the Hate Monger had.
It is the same thing as first described back in Fantastic Four number 21. It is that U-boat thingy or whatever they called it.
Yeah.
So he plans to use it to go under the ground, come up, and strike. Oh, he's using it to capture Prince Nagamo of.
They don't say.
They don't say. So,
presumably Japan, but they don't say.
Yeah, I don't know why I liked this issue anymore. I
don't know why you liked it in the first place.
I don't know why they're rereading this. Well, not reread. Anyways, he uses the device. He strikes up through the ground of the city, and cops start shooting out at the machine, but the machine, of course, is very strong. This is with the parade that's held for Prince Nagamo, by the way, and that's why he's here to capture the prince. And Torch is like, well, I'm not going to break the law that's been put against me. I'm not going to use my powers unless I have permission. I need to save my reputation. So during all this ruckus, the mayor, the mayor's here for the Prince Nagamo parade, and the mayor gives Torch the right to flame on. So Torch does just that. He flames on. He goes down, flies into the subway where the submarine-like vehicle went with the Rabble Rouser inside, and Torch manages to catch up, get ahead of it. He starts shooting flames at it as the Rabble Rouser starts fighting back, but Torch nullifies the blast. Rabble Rouser is stopped in his tracks, literally stopped in his tracks because they're in a subway, and the Rabble Rouser comes out. Johnny is laying on the tracks, having used up a lot of energy, and the Rabble Rouser starts to pull out his wand to get him to do whatever he pleases.
That's what you kids are calling it these days, a wand. Okay, kinky, but
the Torch hasn't had quite enough time yet to flame
get
on.
It hard.
Breathe. So Torch kind of is trying to buy some time here to get it up. Fuck. This is turning the fucking... This is fucking turning the shit. So,
And
much like this story.
Yeah, it's a little entertainment value. Come on.
Prince Decamo has come out. He distracts Rabble-Rouser, which gives Johnny time to strike him, but Rabble-Rouser strikes back. But Johnny gets the wand that Rabble-Rouser has dropped and uses it on Rabble-Rouser himself. And he uses
kinky.
it to make...
Johnny had time to grab a purple pill while Nagano had him distracted.
He uses
That's
it.
right.
He uses the wand on its creator and makes the Rabble-Rouser love America. Red no more. Red no more. So,
bless America.
Torch then decides to burn the wand to smithereens so it can never be used again because it's too dangerous. He flies off. The prince has been saved. His reputation is saved. And then he meets up for Doris for a date. The end.
Yay!
That was painful. This is one of the few times I've actually wanted to change my rating after covering a comic on here, but I gotta stick to my original. I don't know what the fuck was going on in my mind when I gave this 3 stars originally, but here we are. Oh no, I didn't give it 3. It's only 2. Okay, I actually made sense. I read it wrong earlier. I saw 3 when I looked at it earlier. Thank God, that was a shit story. Oh, that was so bad.
It really was.
Oh, that was so fucking bad.
I'm feeling like I overrated it when I gave it 2.
Oh, fuck, yeah.
For the record, the other one was the one I actually liked.
And you gave it that... see, I thought when you said you liked it, you'd actually give it a 3, so... That's what
We're speaking on Torch terms, Ryan.
Yeah.
That one was a high 2. This one's more like a 1.5, 1.6.
It was pretty dry. You know.
I forget how bad that one was, and I gave it to myself.
Yeah.
See, that's why I didn't tell you which one I hated.
Smart man. Smart man.
I gave myself the Torch stories.
You already stuck me with Fantastic Four. I don't need to have that one, too.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
I guess we'll just move right on to the B story, which is Doctor Strange, titled Beyond the Purple Veil, of Steve Ditko, of course.
It is a story of Real Madrid fans.
Maid comes. You fucker. The letter.
Just before we move on,
Okay.
I need to, because I learned this, you need to learn this.
Oh, God.
This
no.
is
It's gonna
not
be
the
bad.
last appearance of the Rabble-Rouser.
Oh, goody.
I forgot to look at that.
He comes back in Wolverine in 2005.
He does. He does. I looked at it when I first read it. Didn't mention that here. So yeah. Anyways, continuing on. Artie Simic letters this one January. Of course, we know that's January. It's the same issue and 8-page story. And this one is for Dan.
Okay, and short and sweet. Just a little brevity here for everybody. Beyond the Purple Veil, Doctor Strange. So, Doctor Strange is up late studying a sinister gem when he discovers 2 burglars breaking into his house. He sends them through the wall and leaves them without calling the police. Okay. This encourages the thieves to return next evening after Strange has dismissed Wong and retreated to his study. Dismissed Wong. Okay, so Wong's his butler now?
Yeah, this is the first. This is actually important. It's the first issue that Juan is named, I believe.
Okay.
I'm gonna double check that real fast.
Yeah,
His name
he
is finally
named in this
revealed
one.
in this issue.
Okay.
He's been seen in the background of previous issues, but this is the first time he's actually finally named.
Okay. Anyway, so the thieves return the next night and they steal the strange gem and escape. Doctor Strange quickly senses that something is wrong. The gem is transported the unsuspecting thieves to the purple dimension. They find themselves sitting in a stadium in Madrid facing a weird team in red. Bum, bum, bum.
Who immediately lose horribly because of their ownership problems.
Oh, shut up. Nobody asked you to join in on this, Bill.
Ryan did. That's why I'm here.
Oh. Ryan, you wanker.
I mean, this podcast directly exists because of Bill, so...
That's true.
Bill's
that
the one
true.
that got me into the reading order, so...
Yeah,
My
so
insanity is contagious.
you've made your contribution, Bill. Now stop talking.
Well, fuck you, too.
Spicy.
Yeah, we booze from the gallery, I see. Anyway, Strange enters the purple dimension. I'm sorry, yeah, we'll get to that. And is brought before its ruler, Agamon, the all-powerful. Agamon shows how his subjects are slaves in the mines digging for gems, and then offers to release his captives if Doctor Strange takes their place. Strange accepts, but breaks free of his shackles as soon as the two thieves have been returned. Agamon, do not ask him for mercy. Agamon, do not ask him for pity. Anyway, Agamon attacks with his jeweled Demolisher beam, and Strange counters with his magic amulet. The contest lasts for hours, but both grow weaker. Ooh. At last, the cowardly Agamon surrenders. With his amulet, Strange weakens Agamon's powers and makes it so that only by releasing his captives may Agamon regain his strength. Strange returns to his house where he learns that the two crooks have given themselves up and promised to live straight lives from now on. That's convenient. And that's literally it.
I mean,
Right.
it's an 8-page story. There's not
Yeah,
that much they can do. In
No. First,
Before they were living very gay lives.
apparently.
I mean, they
Right.
did have the second part of Do Crime.
I don't get that one, so okay.
Be gay, do crime, Dan.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
What a callback.
Yeah, do no harm but take no shit. Okay.
It's because I showed Bill this that I found.
It's not just that.
It's not
Be
just
gay,
that, but
do
that
crime is a very common saying.
helped. It is a very common saying, too,
Okay.
amongst the queers.
Oh, sure. Whatever you say, kids.
Dan's token status is showing right now.
Apparently.
That was that was the most conservative dad Dan moment that we've ever had.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, it's okay. I don't know, guys. What the hell did it... I just
It was a fun short story. I
summarized.
just gave it a 3.
Yeah, this was a 3-star.
It gets an extra little boost because Juan's finally named.
Oh,
Agamon
really?
is so great and
wow,
so
that's
powerful
all it
that
takes to give it a boost?
I'm
Good
easy.
Lord. I've heard.
Juan. So can't believe it. Anyways,
I mean, this one was fairly good. The stakes weren't that high, but I feel like they shouldn't do high stakes in standalone 8-page stories.
yeah, this was a
Because-
fun little read.
Yeah, but it's not that much of a fun read. I
It's fun
guess.
enough for me at least. I mean,
it's
it got a
strange going
2.8.
into another dimension again.
It got a 2.81 on the site that we used, so we're about average.
He's not fighting Mordo for the 13th time.
Yeah, in another
Or
dimension.
Nightmare. No Mortal or Nightmare.
In another
And
dimension.
Agamon is so Agamon is so great that he doesn't appear again until 1992.
In another dimension.
Yeah, the purple dimension,
That's
Yeah.
not colored
With-
purple.
which they waste not even having the purple man yet.
Huh. Okay, but I have nothing to add to this other than what I read, because it's just...
Well, that was a good podcast. Do you want to tell them what we're covering next week, Ryan?
Nice try.
Yeah, it's a cookie cutter plot, so let's move on. Okay, Ryan, what do we cover next week? We gotta go.
Move on. We shall. Guys, we still have a comic this week. What are you talking about?
Yeah, Bill.
I'm
what are
pretty
you
sure
talking
we
about?
don't. We're starting next week with the next comic, which is Avengers.
So,
Ooh.
the next comic we're covering, and it's today, is Fantastic Four, issue number 24. I said 23 earlier, I meant 24. The Infant Terrible, this one is titled. Bill's been waiting for this one
favorite.
for a long time. This is Bill's favorite issue. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, of course, they're titled. George Russo's inks, and Sam Rosen letters. I'm totally not torching Bill by giving them this title. December 1963 release. Merry Christmas, Bill, and 23-page story. Bill
help us.
Bill gets tortured this week because Bill gets a gift next week. Bill gets a good one next week. So.
Bill, I'm begging you.
We're only covering one good one next week, right?
Yeah, you get the one good one.
Bill, please, some brevity on this one. 23 pages.
Don't worry, I'm going to try to get through it pretty fast.
Okay.
This is a relatively quick episode, considering the amount of content we have.
Lack of good content.
Yeah, same thing
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah, in another dimension.
The purple dimension, these comics are much better.
Yeah. Go ahead, Bill. Shut him up.
Hang on.
Oh,
Bill
Bill's trying
deleted all the anything.
I just closed the tab.
No, my internet just is being...
Internety?
Yeah.
I think Bill's trying to trick me into taking this one.
Yeah, Bill can't call it up, and I can't find the summary. I guess you got to do this, Ryan. Oh, what's Bill doing? He's looking in another dimension.
We just see purple come across Bill's face. The purple fail.
I think Google... Oh, there it goes. Finally. I was going to say, I think Google just went down. It knew how bad this comic was and didn't want to give it to me.
Okay.
And apparently it still doesn't. This is the hate monger.
Oh.
There we go. So this is a comic where stuff happens. The end.
Stuff with who? The Fantastic Four?
Yes.
Oh, good summary. Good summary, Bill. I like it. That was really good. I like how you kind of just cut right to the chase on that.
Yes.
Man.
So it opens...
He's not the best color man in the business for nothing, folks.
It opens with the Fantastic Four giving demonstrations of their powers to the press because we haven't had a good remind everyone what their powers are issue for a couple of stories now. And all of a sudden, all the press run out of the Baxter building because they got reports of something actually interesting happening in Times Square. And so they decide to go cover that instead. And so the Fantastic Four get curious and hop into the Fantastic Car to go see what's going on and immediately fly into a giant baby bottle. They break out to see that a variety of toys are in Times Square.
There's a formula to this, is there?
Yes. And they see like a giant toy soldier marching down the street, so Ben punches it, and it starts duplicating itself, and so they get a whole army of it, which is becoming a problem until Reed gets basically all the police in the city to set their sirens off at once, which causes the soldiers to disappear, because apparently he figured they were mental constructs, and by distracting them, made them go away. And just then, we see a weird alien infant running through the town.
One could say it's terrible.
And it makes itself some candy and soda to eat and drink. And until it's sitting there eating its junk food until all the press take pictures of it. And that freaks it out enough that it basically summons a meteor shower into New York to try to get away from all the flashing lights of the press. And most of the meteors burn up in the atmosphere, but a couple crash into the city. And no one really seems too fazed by that. And so Reed contacts the press and tells everyone that the thing's just a baby, and so to just try to avoid it because you don't know what a baby's going to think of to do next. And
God help whoever has to change his diaper.
yeah, hopefully it just wills it to, like, Latveria or something.
Oh, I see. Clever.
Maybe that's why Doom's in such a bad mood all the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, a bunch of gangsters decide that since it's near omnipotent, they might as well try to use it, so they bribe it with candy and load it into a white van. Actually, I don't know what color the van is, but it is loaded into a van.
It is a fan that is loaded into, and it is lured by candy.
Yes, that part was not a joke.
That wasn't a joke.
Wow.
And the Fantastic Four realize that because it's so powerful and so uncontrollable that they need to do something about it. So 3 of them take off to do something about it while Reed stays home to just do an experiment. And so they're all pretty pissed that he won't come along with them. But they go and they find where the criminals have made the infant, bring them an armored car full of money. And so they start taking all the money, but the infant decides it's funny and starts turning the money into other things so that they don't get it. And so they're angry, but then they realize that maybe they can use its prankster nature to their advantage. So they show it a small diamond and ask it to make it bigger, which it does, but then the diamond hatches and has turned into a duck egg. And so now the gangsters are really mad, and they're going to kill it.
Yeah,
but the
they're quacking
Fantastic
up.
Four show up and fight with the gangsters. And one of them tries to drive away, but they catch him immediately.
Because he forgot to duck.
Just let us get through this, please.
Fuck sleeps.
Ah, fine.
Anyway, they try to talk to the infant, but at this point it's been traumatized by the way humans act, so it's decided they're all enemies. So it summons a giant rock monster to fight with the Fantastic Four. And we see Reed fucking around with a machine. He's got this great big telescope, and he sees something that looks like one of the Martian spaceships from Mars Attacks. And cut back to the Fantastic Four to fight with the rock monster a bit, and they're about to start fighting with the infant when all of a sudden it causes a panic in town, and Alicia gets knocked over. And then all of a sudden, the spaceship shows up, and it turns out it's the infant's parents. And they take it home, and the rest of the Fantastic Four stop off, pick up Alicia on their way back, and then go back to the Baxter building, tell the aliens to keep a better eye on their children, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, they could just feed the kid quackers. That'd keep it happy.
Thank God we reached the end.
Dan's puns are not as bad as this comic.
Ooh, now that's not a good sign.
I give this one 2 stars. It wasn't that good. There was just... It's
kind
pretty
of
shit.
silly.
It's very silly. Like, the Infant Terrible itself isn't that bad, and there's some funny interactions, but, like, just everything about this issue, it just doesn't click. It's not very good. It's just...
I've always had a bit of a problem because, the Fantastic Four are not the first ones to run up against something like this where they animate a child and the child is a big threat because he's either huge or whatever. And I've always found it to be sort of more of an Archie comic style villain. It's just not scary. It's not a threat. It's just stupid.
Yeah, it doesn't work at all in a serious comic.
No, it
and
doesn't.
That's the problem. They try. That's why both this and I know I shit on Ryan a lot for liking the Impossible Man, But my issue with this is exactly the same as my issue with Impossible Man. They try to be zany and whimsical, and it just ends up making no sense.
Yeah, it just comes across as desperate to do something different, but not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
So they fall back on something that's just patently ridiculous.
Yeah, and this one's probably even worse. I gave it only 1 star because
I can see why. Yeah.
They had to bring in villains because like gangsters kidnapped the child and tried to use it to rob stuff because they realized partly through they can't have the Fantastic Four trying to punch a literal baby.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, first just the concept of, again, just a giant baby taking over New York. That's something you see in a Mad magazine. It's not something that should be in a superhero trope.
Yeah, it doesn't suit the title at all. For how dare you use the Impossible Man's name and fame, by the way, but anyway.
But it's the exact same concept. This thing shows up with near cosmic powers and a very whimsical understanding of the world and just starts doing random shit because they wanted to draw it.
Yeah,
So you're saying it's Jack Kirby's fault?
Ooh,
Probably, yes.
Shots fired. Well, I just, you can't go from somebody like Doctor Doom or Namor to a giant baby. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, at least we have gone from the giant baby until 1990.
Well, thank God for that.
Yeah.
So when it returns in it's in Power Pack, so it's probably not going to be good anyway.
Yeah.
And even if it is, I mean, that's a title that's much better suited to the concept because that's kind of a goofy title to begin with.
Yeah. How many issues did Power Pack make it through before it got canceled?
Yeah,
that's a big question.
At least 56, because this is issue 56.
I think it made it to its 60s, so if I'm right, not long after the been terrible then.
Was that more or less than the Atari Force?
Should have been more, I think, but now I'm curious.
Honestly, because there are certain titles where, they come out with it and you're like, seriously? Really? And Power Pack's one of them.
Oh, it went 62 issues, I was right. Power Pack. I knew it went around 60.
The 84 version?
Yeah, and they gave it a one-shot, which was issue 63 a few years ago when they were doing Marvel Legacy there, I think. Unless that's counted, then the 62 was the new one, but...
It also had a 4-issue run in 2000.
Oh, yeah,
Wow.
it did. So it went...
Wow.
So 62 plus the 4, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so 67 was the one-shot then, maybe? Or it was late 60s that it was the one-shot.
They had a one-shot in
Marvel
92,
Legacy.
they had a one-shot in 2019, and in 20 it actually got what looks like it was an ongoing title.
It was a miniseries, 5 issues.
3 issues, or 5, yeah.
Yeah. It was a tie-in to the Outlawed event.
Yeah. So about 70 issues altogether.
Yeah, I guess my point is that, and Bill made it probably better, and I'm going to be able to, but this is the kind of villain that does not belong in a title like the Fantastic Four. End of story. It really detracts from what they were attempting to build on as far as Fantastic Four go as a team, as far as they go as, wanting us to take them seriously.
As far as storytelling in this universe goes.
Yeah, because even most of the bad villains are presented as somewhat of an in-universe threat.
Yeah. Yeah, this is just a ridiculous bad guy. Or antagonist.
I don't even really want to call it a villain because it never had any malice.
No, you're right. And like I say, it's just ridiculous to say, oh, hey, let's do this. And, I understand sometimes writers get put up against a wall, and it's like they need the story, and they need it in 20 minutes so that Jack can start illustrating it, get the pencils going. I understand. Like, they're trying to pump out how much stuff, every month, and it's, just a small group of guys, so yeah. But this, even the Porcupine was a better villain than this.
Of course.
This is just... stupid.
I don't know why Porcupine had to be brought up into this, but...
Well, I don't know why you had to wear that stupid T-shirt, but you did.
Maybe because I almost suffocated seeing a live-action version of the Porcupine live on one of our podcasts.
Yeah, her Hulk brought out some pretty archaic bad guys. It did, you know.
It did.
Right.
We had a fun time when we learned about that on the podcast, but yeah.
We did. We like the Porcupine. He's a good
do.
guy.
The Porcupine's great. I mean,
Porcupine's my boy.
he doesn't work as intended.
No, but still
that's
works.
okay.
I don't think they really, the modern readers, understand what the writers were up against as far as cultural sort of limitations go back in the 60s. You know, and we're talking early 60s. The hippie era really didn't kick in until the late 60s, 67, 68.
Yeah, late 60s into early 70s, mid-70s.
Right now, there's still, Western society was still suffering the throes of the beatnik generation. And, it was unusual for anyone to grow their hair long in the early 60s. It just didn't happen. Right. But, coming up with a bad guy like the Porcupine wasn't as silly as you'd think, but coming up with a giant baby, there's nowhere in the history of comics is that ever a great idea for a bad guy. Ever. Ever.
The cultural challenges and then the limitations put on them from the comics code is how we get a lot of these stories. So.
Yeah, that's what leads to a lot of our shit villains that we have right now. It's like they can't do a good villain because
they're incapable of writing one?
Well, also
and the comics code.
They're not allowed to have the villain kill anyone. They're not allowed to have the villain not lose by the end of the issue. They're not allowed to, since they're not going to go for killer, they can't do white collar crime because they can't have politicians or the police shown to be corrupt.
Yeah, as opposed to society we live in now where you can't even do a podcast and say the word Nazis. Right, things have changed so much. I'm just saying.
I think it's about time we get into wrapping up this podcast a bit.
Yeah, let's wrap up.
We love being here.
All right, what's next?
Next week, we start off on a high note and don't catch up to it. But saying that we start off with a high note, it's not a high note for Dan, as we start off next week with the long-awaited return of one of Dan's favorite heroes, as we read Avengers number 4 and see the return of none other than Captain America himself.
Oh,
I was going to tell him Spider-Man joined the Avengers.
Doesn't he join the Avengers? No, he joins the Fantastic Four or something, doesn't he?
He technically joins both at different points. But yes.
Why do you do this to me?
So Captain America joins the Avengers in issue number 4 to give us the high note, and that's the one that I was saying that Bill can have because Bill wanted it before. Is the high note. And then we move on into Tales of Suspense, issue number 50, which sees the debut of Iron Man's most notorious villain, the Mandarin. Then we get a shitty little
who is a Liverpool fan, by the way, just so you know.
Yeah.
Well, of course, he's evil.
And exactly. Right. Then we get a shitty little 5-page story about the Watchatown story about a meek space pilot. Then we have the Black Knight strike in Tales to Astonish issue number 52. And then another 5-page shitty story, but this time by Wasp. And then number 51 of Tales of Suspense sees the debut of the Marvel's version of the Scarecrow. And then we'll end off with another shitty 5-page story. So yeah.
One of Marvel's versions of the Scarecrow, because they have at least one other version of a Scarecrow.
They have 2.
Yeah.
I believe it's only 2. There might be more for all we know.
I know of one other that's actually worse.
Yeah. This is the better Scarecrow, I believe. We're going to be open. So that's good. But yeah, so those are our entries for next week, a number 7 entry a week. It's going to be a relatively kind of
It's going to be a fast one.
There's
episode. 3 5-pagers in there.
Exactly. 3 5-pagers, and the others are like 13-page stories besides. The biggest one will be the Offenders that we open with, so it won't it won't be too big of an episode, I don't think. But yeah. Anyway, guys, if you're on YouTube watching this, which is the way we recommend you watching it,
And
you can see our
haven't
lovely
blacked out from
faces.
boredom.
Yes, that too. But now that you can see our 3 generation of dumbass faces on YouTube, that's where we recommend you
God help
watch
you.
it. And then we are also available on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and if you're listening to this on Spotify, make sure you click that poll that will be attached and tell us what your favorite comic that we covered, favorite entry we covered in this episode was. Obviously, mine was Fantastic. Mine was Fantastic Four number 24. So
Because
let
you're
us
a
know
horrible monster who likes Rob Zombie's Halloween, The Impossible Man.
That's right.
Yeah, no, I was actually joking when I said it was my
No, he
favorite, but
wasn't.
here we are.
No, he wasn't. He was
It's-
serious.
Actually, no, it is my favorite because I tortured Bill with it, so because I'm an asshole. But anyways, we will see you all next week, hopefully. If you haven't given up, oh, okay.
Oh, we lost Bill.
Bill has left. We will see you all next
Bye,
time.
Bill. Nice talking to you.